are live and Dan is back. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fandom Harbor. I'm here with Felicity Poobell. Is that how you say that? Poobell?
You
Poobell?
got it. You got it.
All right. And Dan the man, Dan on tap. Why don't you give you guys introduce yourselves? Felicity is usually streaming on, was it Fan
Well,
Shot
fan
First?
shot first, baby.
It's been a while since we've done streams. We're busy living life.
Mm.
But good to be here. I guess if I'm introducing, I guess I could say I'm the I call myself the nerdy naysayer. So
Yeah, that is a cool nickname, I would say. Yeah. The
I
Nerdy
love it. I
Naysayer.
love it.
I
That,
guess
I mean, that's a, you know what? We should probably do that. Everyone should have a nickname. The Nerdy Naysayer. That's your character. What about you, Dan? What do they call you?
I mean, Dan Tav is where I go on across everywhere. Basically, they'll say, "Oh, he's that like that nerdy, he's that nerdy drunk, right?" Yeah. So, yeah. No, just kidding. No, but
That
no,
would actually be a pretty good show.
says the guy who has some rye in his glass right now. Okay,
Ah, I see, I see, I see.
so
That would be a pretty good show, probably. Just you sitting down with a couple beers and just going on rants about your favorite sci-fi shows.
I'm not as bad as like drunk history.
Yeah,
Those guys like are they're serious like out there, but yeah, or drunk Shakespeare if you heard about those places. But
yeah,
yeah, but
yeah.
yeah, not as bad
Drunk
as that.
History was that was a pretty good show, though.
Mhm.
That was a pretty good show. So let's get into it. Ironheart. Felicity, I'm very, very curious about what you thought of Ironheart. I know we got 3 episodes out the gate, which is not strange for Disney at this point, or Marvel or Star Wars, right? They've been doing that, if not dropping the entirety of something on us because they just don't have any faith in it, right? But we got 3 episodes, which I think I'm going to reserve my opinion on right now. But what do you think, Felicity?
well, surprisingly, I didn't hate it like the internet says I'm supposed to.
Hmm.
Um,
Mm,
Yep.
Although I'm not going to say that it's the best thing ever.
uh,
Um, I just don't really have the investment in it to hate it. I think that's
mm,
a surprising thing for me
okay,
because I'm not
okay,
familiar with the character. I didn't read
okay.
the comic, but I think that there are just things that they could have done with this show to actually make it better. So hopefully we could actually get into that. But right now is sitting at mid for me.
Okay.
That may change once we get into spoilers, guys. The magic part of the show,
Right. Mhm.
because
Right.
I do have some attachment there with certain character, but for now I'll leave it at that, and I'm curious to see what you guys have.
Which character?
Well, I mean, Doctor Strange.
I
Yeah.
see. I
I
see.
was.
I see.
We needed
I
like
see.
the sling ring like
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
animation here. Yeah.
Yeah. We need little sparklies, right, and coming out.
Yeah, I know he's not going to show up just like he didn't show
Right.
up in WandaVision,
True.
but
Right.
we'll touch on his world quite heavily, and right there is probably where I'm going to start moving over to the hate category. But we'll see. We haven't
And
got
isn't it weird
Yeah.
we didn't get him in WandaVision too? Because like she's all up in his movie, right?
Yep.
that was one of my big problems.
You know.
To be quite honest, I mean,
Yeah.
she's sitting over in New Jersey, and his so you're saying he couldn't feel the tinglies over one state over. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of my big problems with that show. But
Strange senses
Yeah.
tingling. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. That's got to be the biggest complaint I think I've heard from. I don't know, just like across the board. You've got all these people with special powers in such close proximity, even if they aren't in that close proximity. Like even on the other side of the state, some of these people can teleport, right? Um, they don't know about what's happening. They don't, like Tiamat is coming out and destroying the world, and then the Celestials are doing their thing, and everyone's just sitting it out, you know. And all of a sudden we get Cat. Anyway, Dan, what did you think of? Ironheart.
Yeah, I might be like a teensy bit more positive. I mean,
Okay.
I was most bullish about episode 3, honestly,
Okay.
because I feel like that. I mean, like I don't know, some of the dialogue seems like there's like I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like there's almost too much silence in some dialogue scenes.
Okay.
And like I mean, like I don't know if people are expecting there to be more of this moment there, but but again, per Felicity's point, we other than if then in Wakanda Forever, basically, like we really didn't have any attachment to any of the characters in the show, basically.
Right.
So it's kind of like, well, it's kind of hard to say, well, can we have an emotional draw to anyone here, honestly, because we don't have any real understanding of them. I read the first run of Ironheart, and it was cool. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I don't think most people will have done that or have done any homework, and so it's a big ask to say, okay, I want you to care about, Riri and her mom and the loss that's attributed to everything that's happened. Spoilers, sorry about that, but I mean, that's the thing. It's like, again, I felt like episode 3, the pace started to pick up a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I'm looking to see what the second half of the series is going to bring us. Basically, I want to be optimistic. Again, there are a lot of obviously Hoogler is attached to this as an EP, basically. So I want to like it, obviously. But yeah, we'll have to kind of see. I mean, I do enjoy, basically, the little, like, throwbacks to kind of pieces of technology and all this kind of thing. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's enough to keep people invested in this, though, honestly.
Right. There's so one of my, I mean, like, first of all, I did enjoy. I wasn't expecting to enjoy this as much as I did. I'll say that. And to that point, I saw Rob from Comics Explain post a video. Yeah, he said, we got to talk about Ironheart. And surprisingly, he's enjoying the show too. And that was kind of an interesting thing to see, because I'm expecting, I don't know, after two different IPs, right? But after Acolyte and I don't know, what was that Disney movie that just came? Was it Cinderella? No, Snow White that just came out, right?
Right.
And like all of the vitriol that you see getting barked at with, certain casts, like I was expecting, I don't know.
Rachel Z.
I don't know. I was just expecting something that was not as well put together. And I've got to say,
yeah.
Was
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if nothing else, basically, we'll say this again. I think we've said this before, but it's not Secret Invasion, so that's already a win.
No, it's not. and Secret Invasion really was butchered. But I think that what saved Ironheart was that it took so long for it to come out. Whereas Secret Invasion, they rushed it out, and you could see where they were really dropping the ball, right? So something happened, while we were waiting for this to come out, to really, I guess, maybe save it a little bit as much as they could, right? But didn't expect it to be as well put together as it is. I really did not. And I was pleasantly surprised. I will say, though, I cannot take Eric Andre serious no matter what.
No, the show didn't take him seriously either, because he wasn't in it very long.
Cannot.
Spoilers again. He
Yep.
killed.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's the thing, though, is that the show is giving you cues that the show and the main character really can't be taken that seriously.
Right.
I mean, we got in the first 10 minutes, and now we're getting into, I guess, heavier spoilers.
Yeah, it's overall spoiler alert for Ironheart.
Yeah.
Yes.
She gets kicked out of MIT. Deservedly gets kicked out, because they've been basically stringing her along, giving her as much rope as she can to hang herself. She's been, trying to help other students at other schools by giving them, I guess, papers and things to, help themselves along. And, she's been blowing up the facilities with her
Yeah.
antics.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was actually surprising that we had I guess she was the dean or president of the school.
This woman here.
Got introduced. Yeah, we never got
Yeah.
really introduced officially to her.
Right.
No, we
Right.
didn't. Yeah.
But she's basically like, yeah, I'm not buying your, I'm being held back or held down.
Right. Right,
I have
right.
helped you at every step of the way, and you still
Mhm.
fuck this up.
Yeah.
So they
I mean,
that came
yeah.
right out the gate.
Yeah. I was.
I mean,
impressed by-
I kept going back to Community in this, especially in this scene. I'm like, oh my god, it's Steve Helton. I'm like, it's just
Yeah.
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 So
yeah.
I went
You gotta
there,
admit.
but no. Do you
Yeah.
guys think this is like it's supposed to be a kind of a commentary on young person entitlement at all?
I don't know if I'd say that. I'd say that this is uh they're really trying to sell this idea that she was, at low advantage, right? Because she was a part of
Right.
Stark's was a mentorship thing that he did. I don't know if you would call it mentorship, but like the initiative that he started, right, where he had all that funding for college that we saw back in Civil War,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that was an interesting thread to see them pick up on and actually carry through and actually have someone of an intelligent standing showing you, "Oh, okay, this is how bright these people are that we're talking about, right? It's MIT." But I think that we're really trying to nail out of the park or hit it out of the park with this idea that, she's from this low income area and, you know, irregardless of her talents and her intelligence, she wants to do particular things, right? She has goals, and the only way that she can see to get to that is to go outside of the framework of what's
Yeah,
supposed to be straight and narrow,
she
right?
was.
Yes.
I do appreciate that she just straight up
Yeah.
just said, "Listen, I don't have billions behind me like this,
Mhm.
this rich white guy." You
Yeah.
know, I do appreciate that she said that because
Yeah.
it needed to be said.
But at the
It's
same
really
time,
important.
I wonder, she doesn't have that. But then where did she get the money for this, right? Like this
Yep.
pretty cool thing that we saw that she was selling to another student, right? Because that's her thing. She's selling all of these gadgets to other students that they're using as their homework, which is really interesting. I guess, you have these ultra high level devices that she's creating and she's selling them to other students in MIT to basically cheat on their homework. What a weird thing.
Yeah. Back to your point about the commentary.
Yeah.
The show is all about social commentary.
Yeah.
Okay. You cannot deny that I think that's clearly evident with the show.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the downfalls of the show is that they're really wanting to have something to say
Yeah.
about society as it is, more than the actual ideas to back it up.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the
I think so as well.
character,
Mm.
to back it up. This whole thing does kind of put me in the mind of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Hmm.
How Sam for some reason couldn't get a loan through the bank,
Right.
but
Right.
she used her hookup with Wakanda to help her through her perceived struggles.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not really feeling the whole social commentary part of the show. Actually, I think the fact that they're trying to make so much social commentary
Hmm.
really hurts the show.
Yeah. I think it does take away from the shine. I get it though. I get where they're coming from. I know who she's supposed to be as a character. You kind of can't get away from it. So it's a thing that I think that I would complain about, but at the same time, it's something that I think I don't take as to heart as I normally would because I know the origins of the character and I know. Well, I guess you can't really separate that because that's what she's supposed to be. However, her origins in the comics versus her origins in the MCU are a little, I guess, very different because she was kind of like a thief in the comics, right? She stole Stark tech or something like that. It was a little different, her origin and how she got all this technology and stuff. What I found curious as well is that we go from Wakanda Forever, right? She has this like hyper advanced suit, I guess you could say, that the Wakandans helped her build. Shuri helped her build, and then you get back to MIT, and she has a suit that's, I don't know, like I feel like it looks a little too advanced based on what we saw her have initially in Wakanda Forever, right? When we first meet her, to what we saw, Shuri help her build, which she couldn't take with her, where she was told she couldn't have that suit with her, right? And she has the suit that just looks really advanced. And this suit, I didn't get as many screenshots as I wanted to, but this suit actually, the way it's assembled is similar to what we saw at the end of Avengers with Tony Stark with the pieces flying to him, right? He had all those little devices in his body, and they were like radio signals, and all the parts flew onto him to basically assemble the suit. Or am I wrong about that? No, that was Iron Man 3, right? That was Iron Man 3, I think, where that happened, where he had the suit where the pieces fly into him and stuff. But anyway, it was interesting to see that she had gone that much further into the future there with her tech, because I don't think a lot of time has passed between Wakanda Forever and like the moments that we're seeing here. So I'm interested in when she had the time to build that, and how she figured that all out. Because she did not have that advanced of a suit when we met her. So if she didn't get to take that tech,
and
with her,
I think that some of that of the suit, obviously, seeing how it's all tied into that the MIT AI,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of shortcuts were taken. So aesthetically, it
Yeah.
looks super advanced, but I think that functionally, that obviously there are limitations.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's still, I don't know. It's just for me, I feel like there's a little bit of a choppiness there to her development, because she is not Tony Stark, right? She does not have the workshop that he has, and I think the reason
She
why,
has trauma. She has trauma, but that's about it.
yeah, but yes, yeah, but I think what my hang up here is just like timeline, and and where she was when we left her off,
Right.
you
Well,
know.
she does have the son of Obadiah Stane. Curiously
Eventually, yeah,
close, curiously close to
yeah,
where she lives. I guess
yeah.
he's living in suburban Chicago. I you
Is
know
that where he's at? I didn't get his location. I thought because it's
I,
Yep.
I believe that's where she found him, was suburban
Well,
Chicago.
they said basically Evanston, which is
yeah,
just outside Chicago. So yeah, so home of the women's temperance movement on ironically enough. But yeah,
yeah. It's
Did anybody feel like that was a little bit too convenient? One, and maybe we could have used a different character in this spot. Somebody who actually does have a little bit more resources. Somebody like Justin Hammer. I feel like
yeah,
it could have been used
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
help her along. He has the uh, maybe he has the more legit beef with Tony Stark. Being as that whole situation in Iron Man got him put in jail. We don't know for how long, or
yeah,
what happened with his fortune or anything like that. Um,
yeah, yeah. I think he's
just
gonna come
felt
back.
like it just felt like we should have seen him by now. I
Yeah,
was hoping he would have
Yep.
shown up in Thunderbolts or New Avengers,
Yep.
whatever we're going with there. But uh,
I thought he would show up in Cap 4, like honestly, because the connection
Fair. Also
to
fair.
the villain in Cap 4, spoiler alert, the Thinker, right? Like there's a connection there. Because the guy, so the Thinker and Justin Hammer, they have like a connection to AIM, which is, they both have a connection to AIM, but for some reason I don't know why Marvel didn't swing for that, because that would have been the perfect time to bring Justin back and have him present, because he could have been, I don't know, he could have been a pansy, like like
I
just
mean,
some,
honestly, they've kind of abandoned AIM as a organization or plot device, even
yeah.
to a great extent, basically. Because you could say, oh well, well, we didn't technically have MODOK and Quantumania, but I mean, just no,
Ah,
Yeah, yeah. Think about it. We've gotten three pieces to aim. We got
right?
Justin Hammer, we had MODOK, we
Yep.
had the Thinker, all separate.
Mhm.
Not
With
not
no
unique.
real connection. And again, I mean,
Yeah, no, not united at
again,
all.
yeah, A may not be like you know Doom level competition worthy, obviously, but they're still an organization that is
You
reckoned with
know,
a number of occasions. So
I would disagree with that. I think that they are. Like, I mean, not Doom level, of course not. Like Doom's Doom, but
Not Doom level, but
but
they're still an antagonist of sorts.
I think they're Hydra level.
Yes, that's fair.
I would think that they're Hydra level, and if you look at Hydra and what that ended up being, especially when you look at Civil War, and again, I'll say this again, God bless Robert Redford, because I swear to God, I
Uh,
feel like him being a part of that movie like made that
that
probably the best movie that they could
he
ever
brought
do.
the gravitas
Yeah.
to that for me. Yeah, 100%.
Beside the point, but but still, right? When you think about it, they brought Hydra back in grand fashion in that movie, right? We got a glimpse of them in Captain America, First Avenger. We got the campiness out of the way, and then all of a sudden we had this grand espionage film where they had been laying the groundwork for infiltrating the entirety of civilization for years, right? I mean, AIM could have played. I mean, he really dropped the ball on that. AIM could have been, yeah.
they're making weak connections. Like
Mhm.
when we got introduced to this character as
Yeah.
Stain's son, I was like, really? Why haven't we
Yeah.
heard anything about him? How is he connected to Tony? I mean, they had to have met.
I
Uh,
don't know. Maybe not. He seems young. How old
well,
is
I
he?
mean, he's identified as what, 36, I guess, in this.
Yeah,
So I'm sure Tony would have known of him.
yeah.
Um,
He would have at least met him at least once or twice. I'm assuming.
Is
yeah,
Tony in his 50s I don't like how old is Tony at the time of death in Endgame, right? Like I don't know. He's definitely not in his 40s.
I think he's probably whatever age Robert Downey Jr. is, which is, I believe, 50s, like maybe early mid.
50. They say 53.
Okay.
Given that his birth date in the MCU is May 29th, 1970. So yeah,
So
that
he
would
would
track.
so he
So
would
because
know of
Endgame was
yeah.
2023 year wise, and
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. So at the time of fighting Obadiah, right? Like he would have definitely known of,
yeah, I would
you
agree.
know. So it is a really weird convenient connection. That's just I think this is just one of those things where they were trying to lay the groundwork for Young Avengers again, and it just didn't pan out the way that they wanted to. Because you got to remember, this was supposed to come out a long time ago, right? And you would have had Quantumania, you would have had Hawkeye, the Hawkeye series, where you introduced his follow up, right? What else do we got? We had Miss Marvel, right? You had all of this stuff coming out where Ironheart would have come out at a similar time.
I mean,
You know,
and obviously, we haven't, we mentioned before, but Armor Wars, would have had to have been dealt with at some point along the way too, before it got shelved.
yeah, before it changed to a movie and then it died.
And then disappeared.
Are we going to get Skrulls referenced in this show?
Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah,
I mean, we got him in the Marvels. We got a connection to that in the Marvels, but
Right.
that was, I think that kind of dies there. I don't think
I
we're
think
gonna get.
I think we're sticking with this magic versus technology theme.
Yeah, yeah, which is interesting. I think it leads us to where they're trying to go in the future with everything. But I think it's pretty sad. You can go back and find the breadcrumbs of what they were trying to do. You know,
Mhm.
you really can. You can pick up all the pieces there, and like even with She-Hulk, they introduced Cigar, uh, in such a weird fashion. They were just trying to drop a young Hulk in there. You know,
Yeah.
that's all they were doing. They were really trying to pull that young Avengers team together. But anyway, you know,
With that BS haircut too.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, you know, and this whole bit, you know, with her AI friend, right?
It's like let's talk about ethics in technology. Like, what if hypothetically I did something? You're not asking for a friend. He's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not asking for a friend. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, that was like that whole bit was like pretty hilarious in some ways.
Well,
But yeah,
I was confused when she showed
yeah,
up though. Like I saw the trailer and I saw that she would, you know, of course you know that she has a connection to her friend in the comics and everything. You know she has an AI, but I was so confused at how it happened because she went from scanning her brain and then all of a sudden her friend shows up. I was like, okay,
You know what?
it's,
Actually, I feel like she's one of the bright spots in the show.
yeah,
I like her, and I
yeah.
feel like she's kind of like a proxy almost because
Rob hates it.
well, I mean,
Well,
I look, I think that she is kind of a proxy for a more likable Ironheart.
Okay,
Because I mean, obviously she comes from her brain and
right,
her
right.
trauma that she's gone through, her PTSD
yeah,
that she's gone through from the
okay,
murder of her stepdad and her best friend. She hasn't really dealt with it.
mm,
Um, and also, one of the few moments where I was actually kind of touched in
okay,
the show was later on where the friend Natalie, the AI, escapes from her computer from
Yep.
her computer and gets projected onto the mother's painting. And
Yeah.
she sees her and they start having conversations.
yeah,
And then Riri comes home later and
yeah,
she's like, you know what, she's great. She's just like, the old Natalie. And she says to
mm,
her daughter, hey, could you do one for me of, my husband, my dead
right,
husband? And
yeah,
I'm like, wow, okay, they got me there.
Yeah.
And actually, that was another thing that they could have done in the show, to kind of pull people in and, give people more feeling for the character. What if she does do that to help her
Yeah.
mother grieve and something goes wrong and she
right,
has
Yeah.
to, shut it down? So there were things that they could have actually done to make this show better.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
but chose to go the route that they went.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, it's what takes me by surprise with this AI is how she remembers certain things, you know. And I guess it shouldn't take me by surprise because you know, she comes from the brain scan of Riri, right? So I guess there can be a connection there to her remembering the trauma that she went through.
Hmm.
The AI itself seems to remember
Hmm.
uh or maybe not remember exactly, but she can feel that something's wrong in the
Yeah.
Every
context.
time
So,
she sees a gun or there's mention of a
yeah.
screen, she freezes
Yep.
up.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say when she takes over the Ironheart suit, that it looks pretty friggin' cool. I don't, you know,
Mhm.
I don't know if it's doing Riri any justice of having her be in the suit and like having her face basically be behind the GUI, the heads up
Right.
display, right? But
Mhm.
she looks pretty cool in the position. I'll tell you that much. Yeah,
Yeah. I do like her. I understand why some people might not like her in general because she comes off as this very pushy, like, oh my gosh, I am
yeah,
a real life Clippy from Microsoft Word, kind of a thing, But like at the same time, the way I think
yeah,
of it this way is that Natalie is the sheath to Riri's sword. If Riri's a sword and she's a sheath, that's kind of what I really see her as. Because if she was there, I don't think that she'd be taking nearly as many risks, and she'd be doing things a lot more well thought out. Because basically, the eccentric genius in her basically overcomes any other kind of reasoning. On a moral ethical standpoint. So, oh well, yeah, I'll just take a couple of these jobs on the side, and then I'll quit when I'm done, kind of thing.
yeah.
So
Speaking of Clippy,
Yeah, isn't it so crazy that MIT's AI companion looks just like Clippy?
yeah,
No,
yeah,
no, no. See,
someone,
no, see, it's Clippy, but it's there's also a little bit of Mr. Hanky thrown in there for me.
That's
yeah,
true. That is so
yeah,
true.
yeah, someone, I think Captain Gravel
Idaho.
from, yeah, Captain Gravel from the Gumbo Discord server was saying this looks like Clippy, and I was
Yep,
like, you know what, that's
yep.
hilarious because not too many people remember that old Microsoft helper,
Nope.
uh, and that was hilarious to have that call back.
Yeah.
Microsoft was ahead of its time, I guess. You know.
Yep.
She's going to be bigger than Bill Gates. Bigger than
Yeah,
Bill Gates, bigger than
Yep.
Steve Jobs,
Bigger than Jobs.
Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
she's gonna be a big deal. You know, she's what was that? I can't remember the adjective they were trying to use for uh,
Iconic.
iconic. Yeah,
Yeah. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
yeah. You know, the Hood is an interesting character.
Yeah.
The name I can't get beyond the name, but you know, in terms of the actual substance of the character, I think is pretty good. It's pretty good. The name, there's just too many Hood characters out there. Like DC has a
Red
couple.
Hood. Yeah.
Red, yeah, and so, but aside from the Hood, though, before we get into him, you know, his cousin, as it were, if it's really his cousin, I don't know if it's really his cousin or if they're just calling each other cousins, because
Right.
you know, the relationship is interesting. This guy's a great actor. I don't know.
I
I think
agree.
that a high note for the show. I don't know.
He didn't
No, I
stay
would agree.
around very long, did he, though?
No, no. I
No.
actually we don't know though. We don't know because we got some things at the end of episode 3. You know where the Hood saw what went down. Right, he had like this little I don't know this little showing of by whomever whom I think some people might say it's Dormammu, but I think it was with Mephisto.
Yeah.
Sasha Baron Cohen.
Maybe who knows? Who maybe he will show up, but showed him what happened to his homie. I think that we will see Mephisto, though. I think so because clearly, Rob was pointing this out too. Clearly, the Hood has sold his soul to somebody, right?
Right.
And Mephisto's whole thing is giving you what you want, but not giving it what giving you what you want at the same time
Yep.
until it's time for you to come due on that payment, right? So, um, you know, we have the Brady Bunch here. And Eric Andre, it's I just can't take him seriously, man. He's supposed to
Rampage.
be
He wants to be called Rampage.
Rampage, sure.
Rampage.
sure.
Yes. Yeah.
He's supposed to be the Riri type in this group before Riri,
Yep.
right? So I just that casting choice, it's so interesting to me. It's like Aquafina. She
Okay,
didn't do
yeah.
terribly in Shang-Chi,
Fair.
right? But you just know who she is. Right. And if you really know who she is, right, you know her from her rapping days and you know like her songs that she's put out. And so you can't get it out of your head when you see her in a serious role. Which is where I'm at with her as an actor. And I know that's not fair to her because I think she's done a pretty good job.
Look, she's got a good ass agent.
Yeah,
Yes.
that
Every
too.
time that
Yes.
they need Asian, like a crazy acting Asian
Yeah.
female character,
Yeah.
she shows
Yeah.
up just about every
Mhm.
time. She's like
Yeah.
Asian Pedro Pascal.
Yeah. It's pretty much. Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty much,
Oh
pretty
yeah.
much.
I like that. Yeah.
But you know, to my point, like that's where I'm at with Eric Andre. Cause like I just know him from his show. And
He
so
became
Right.
the meme. He became the actual meme.
yeah,
Yes.
he's the meme. He's
Yes.
the meme. He's the meme.
Absolutely. 100% agreed.
He's the meme. He really is. But anyway, he's on the Hood's team. Uh, here we go. We have a better image of the Hood and said team. You know, the cloak. I'm sure it has. I'm sure that's where the mystical powers lie for him, right? There's even been hints as such because Riri's trying to steal some of it for her purposes, right?
Well, that and the tattoos. There's
And the
Yep.
and the tattoos, right? And so, what really gets me with that character is, I don't know. It's when you start watching live action stuff, you really, for some reason, for some reason, you read a comic or you watch a cartoon, an animated series or something, and it's not that big of a deal. But then you see it with the real person, and you're like, man, I don't know. I don't know.
You know what? Does
Yeah.
anybody get the feeling that if she had just had like a 2 minute conversation with the little kid and his cart, you know, he
Hmm.
could have said, "Don't mess with that guy. There's something sketchy about him."
Maybe,
Yep.
maybe that kid with the cart. At first I wanted to be annoyed by that, but it was like actually he's pretty cool. Like he's a nice part of the show. You know, kind of grounds things a little bit.
He has more
Um,
street
Yeah.
smarts than
yeah,
Yes.
Riri at this point.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes.
I'm curious about these tattoos though,
Yeah.
because his cousin keeps having to cover them up for him, but they keep growing back, right? So clearly, this is some. I don't know if everybody who ends up in the same position that he's in has a tattoo that grows on their back, or if it's just something specific to what he asked for. I don't know, but this thing is trying to take over his back, and his cousin keeps having a tattoo over it to hide it from people. So that's interesting. You know,
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, visual representation of his himself being corrupted by whatever method he made his bargain with, basically. Yeah.
right?
it,
That's what I'm.
like,
Yeah,
it feels like he should have expected his ragtag group of criminals to
Ah.
try to investigate, what's really behind, what's driving him and everything like that.
right.
So maybe if he had, secured his cape, his cloak a little bit better,
Yeah,
um, you know, maybe we wouldn't be in the position that we are. I don't know.
I don't think that he can get away from it though. I think that's part of the whole deal. I think he has to have it, um, or he just doesn't have his power maybe because there's
Yeah.
a scene where like this scene here, right, where this bullet where he shoots from the gun and the bullet has all this mystical stuff behind it and it like goes around Riri and it hits Captain Savaho. uh
Yep. Nice.
uh, clearly he has the hood on when he shoots this thing, right? I don't see
Yeah.
him doing any of this magical stuff without it. So I think if he doesn't have the hood, he doesn't have the power, maybe.
Well,
Um,
maybe don't
Yeah.
let your ragtag group of criminals, make it rain in your place.
yeah,
Fair. Also
yeah. Well,
fair.
he had yes, but to his credit, if you can give a fictional character credit, right? He was supposed to have it hidden in a safe that they couldn't access, supposedly. But that's a little gullible of him, right? Because they're supposed to be the best of the best of stealing shit from
Right.
people, I guess, right? So, that didn't really pan out. Uh, and here we have Riri taking off from Obadiah Jr.'s place, which
Oh
Zeke.
my god, I don't know. Is Alden Ehrenreich gonna be like one of their like contract players or something? If they
Yeah.
need a sad white guy to show
yeah,
up.
yeah, maybe,
Yep.
yeah,
The
maybe, yeah,
That's fair. That's fair.
yeah, maybe. And I gotta say, this image, right? We're going back to her suit now looking as advanced, right, versus what she left MIT with when she was blasting out there, right? She still had access to that suit, so I'm curious why it's reverted to such like a dumpster can looking suit, right?
Well,
That's kind of convoluted for me.
is the suit
Yeah.
is the appearance of the suit supposed to kind of like, match the level of the character development along the show here? So like, will the final version, the Mark 3 of the series, basically, will this be, approaching, but obviously that won't meet the vibranium level of
Maybe, yeah, maybe,
I don't know. I don't know.
yeah, maybe that's the
And,
case.
and
I
if
guess
so,
we'll
like
see.
how, like even with Zeke's hookup, I mean, like I just don't see how in a very short period of time you can upgrade the suit, even if you're up for 23 hours a day upgrading it. Basically, like I'm just
Yeah.
trying to understand
Yeah.
like how you can even physically get there in that regard. But I don't know.
Well, I would ask, do we get a cameo from Shuri? Do we get a cameo from the Wakandans? Do they bring her other suit and they're like, you know what? We see you doing your thing. Here's a gift.
Okay,
Or
so if
is
that
it
happens, if the Dora
Yeah.
Milaje shows up like they did in Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
right?
are they gonna
Right.
they're gonna put her in her place like they did Bucky?
Bucky, maybe,
Yeah.
This little
maybe,
arm that they made fall off. That was such a sad.
maybe.
Yeah.
thing to happen.
Because you got to remember, they were supposed to be developing a show with which one of the Dora Milaje? It was like the Midnight something that she got that weird suit in Wakanda Forever. They were supposed to be developing a show for her
Right.
around that suit that she got. And so I took that as a sign. I don't know, with them showing up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that they were going to try to like develop that a little bit more through the other series, have them pop up, but maybe not, maybe not, because that might have gotten killed too on the cutting room floor.
I mean, if there's ever a series to use Deus Ex Machina,
Yeah,
this would be the series to do it, probably because it's all about Machina. So
maybe. I don't know. I'm curious to see what we get next. Any prediction? And we'll wrap it up. And
yeah,
with,
I mean,
predictions.
magic wise, since you're the Felicity, you were mentioning Stephen Strange before. I mean, what kind of tie-ins do you think we could see here? That's a good question.
He's not showing up.
Yeah,
I
we're calling it now.
I wish that they would make that connection, but I
Yeah.
don't think that they are necessarily interested in that. I mean, there's talk about her possibly showing up in like Doomsday or something.
Yeah,
So I don't know that we're gonna necessarily get that. But yeah, we're gonna get Mephisto eventually. We're gonna get the visual. We're gonna get Sacha Baron Cohen, I guess. But yeah, no Doctor Strange or Wong. I mean,
Or Wong. You're good point.
Wong could show up, but I don't think that that's gonna happen either because it makes sense, unfortunately.
did they kill Wong Academy? Because wasn't that a thing? They were like developing Wong Academy or something like that, so that so we get more insight into, I guess, his school that we saw in Multiverse of Madness, which got obliterated, right?
There's also the opportunity of another cameo. Two Wise, but not where you think they. Sorry,
I knew that was gonna come.
Wow. I mean, yeah.
Madison.
Medicine. You know what? I do expect that character to emerge at some point again, but I don't know where. Yeah, I just
I
feel
feel
like
like there's going to be a cameo at some point. I
yeah.
agree.
Look at what they did with Catherine Hahn, right? Like Agatha, who ended up being a hit, so they gave her own show. If you think about it, Madison was probably one of the best parts of She-Hulk, even though she was a meme, right?
Right.
People loved laughing at her. She's got to show up. I mean, she's like Darcy. She's like the Darcy character. It's like Darcy ends up with Howard the Duck in one of the What If seasons, right? They have a comic baby.
God, please don't worry about that. It was so bad.
I mean, hey, anything's possible, but I feel like I don't know what's coming next. I know we got the mystical part of the show coming up where we're gonna see her embed magic somehow into this technology, which will be interesting because we were supposed to see Doctor Strange in the Iron Man suit in some iteration of Infinity War, but that did not happen, right? So that would have been cool to see. So I would really like to see how that works. They probably won't explain it, but who knows? We see Ghost Rider. I don't know.
I mean, I want to know how, Anthony Ramos, physically speaking, as his character basically is going to kind of become more and more, not necessarily mutated or grotesque per se, basically, but how much more is that going to take over him?
Right.
Now that he's knows and understands what's happened at this this facility.
Right.
In
episode
what? 3 more so.
You know what though? Like after I just said that about Ghost Rider, his cousin. What is his cousin's name? I can't remember that character's name for anything right now, but that's one way he could come back. He could actually come back as Ghost Rider, right? They could actually have that twist in here where he dies, and
Right.
then he like begs for another chance to come back and get revenge. Oh, looks like we
Oh.
lost Felicity.
Oh no. Yeah, well, I mean, again, because there's all this, talk about Agents of Shield, cameos coming back for Secret Wars and the like, it basically and
Right.
whatnot, and like
Right.
so, like I mean, he's obviously not Robbie Reyes, but
Yeah.
but could he be another
Yeah.
variant of sorts? Basically,
But
yeah. I
the,
mean,
the funny thing
be
about
kinda
that
cool.
is, yeah, but the funny thing about that is like they always circumvent who somebody really is supposed to be. Like,
Exactly, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So he could be some new version of the Ghost Rider,
I
I don't know.
he clearly had vengeance per se.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, but I'm interested to see how they're going to kind of do this, because like at least she understands that she done effed up Aaron in this last episode. So it'll be interesting to see like what that fallout is basically going to be, and how she's going to try and approach that, and how Natalie may or may not try and talk her off a cliff, basically. So we'll have to see.
I think Felicity's having some technical difficulties.
No.
Well, we were going to wrap up.
We're wrap up soon anyway, so
yeah,
it's all
we were
good.
going to wrap up. So, well, hold on. Let's see what she's saying here. Oh, I think it's connecting.
Yeah, but I'll have to kind of see basically how some of these other things might might pan out basically. Yeah, I'm thinking that we'll have kind of a bit of a more introspective episode for episode 4 right now, and then I think for 5 and 6 basically it's going to pick right back up again with a lot of this action, I think, and then we'll have to kind of see what upgrades can be done, if anything, and does Zeke have like a secret stash within his vault that she hasn't mentioned her about, which has like more maybe adaptive Stark tech, nano or whatever the case is.
He's got some stuff hiding. He definitely has some stuff hiding. I think that I think this is where we see if they jump the gun, Marvel. I mean, with the script writers and everything, and if they do too much too soon, like because I mean, for what it's worth, everything's been great. So, I mean, I say that loosely. Everything's been great so far, but
no.
the way episode 3 ended, right? We kind of There's kind of a weird ramp up there. So we'll see, because they could have stretched that out over like a couple of episodes. I mean, the betrayal part,
and that's the thing too. I think that they've gotten everything that was greenlit so far. They've gotten gun shy. Okay, we're gonna cut this back to 6 episodes, right?
Yeah,
and I think that is like the or in this case, the special presentations, which I think is a much better approach. It's so I mean that's why I think everyone and their mother is looking forward to the Punisher SP at this point.
Yeah, but everyone and their mother loves the Punisher show on Netflix.
Oh yeah,
so
there's
a difference.
but I think that basically I think that there's like when you have a finite amount of time to work with, basically it's like you have these episodes like, well, how do I chop this up so it's digestible and not just 100% bingeable?
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem with the writer's strike, right? Like they needed people who could write
parse
television,
and parse it out into these episode increments, because because you want the flow there on one hand, but if you can't put up like mini cliffhangers or mini whatever the case is along the way, it's hard, man. Again, I'm not by no means I could not write it better. By no means,
but I know how to enjoy something, so we'll see.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, we'll wrap up here for tonight. I don't think we're gonna get Felicity back. I think she's got some technical difficulties, but it
happens, man.
Yeah, it was great to chop it up with her.
Absolutely.
Check out Felicity at a Fan Shot First here on YouTube.
Absolutely.
Dan, you still got your podcast going, right? With the
I got one of them. I got one of them still going, although it's kind of on a weird. I had a external hard drive and a backup, both bricked.
Oh no!
So like it's causing a lot of problems, and with work and whatnot being as crazy as it's been the past couple weeks, I haven't had a chance to really kind of dive deeper in that. So hopefully tomorrow I can finally go back into that and figure things out in that regard, basically.
Gotta
Yeah.
send it
Well,
off to get it get it recovered. Yeah.
yeah, basically, yeah, because like I tried every recovery program I could. Basically, I could send it away, but I have to spend like $850 basically to get it recovered.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
it's
I've done
just
that
like,
once. Yeah,
I-
yeah, it's
I'm-
worth it though. If you got
yeah,
it.
I mean,
It's worth it.
I can recreate part of what's
Yeah.
there. Basically, I just have to
Yeah.
do some more final cut work and that kind of stuff. It's just
Yeah.
it's annoying, but it's just like if I can have the undivided attention to do it, I'll do it. Just do it. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I still have all my old podcast episodes on a hard drive. Who knows? Maybe I'll put that up again one day. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm a little far removed from that because I'm working on music stuff. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but those are good combos.
Yeah.
All the people from the other parts of your past, man, were cool. Some really
Yeah.
really cool people you got there for real.
yeah, it was interesting interactions there. Yeah. Well, we'll try to make this happen again soon.
Yeah,
enjoy-
we'll have to talk about the latter half at some point for sure.
exactly,
so-
exactly. And there's other stuff coming, right? So we got fantastic.
I mean, like we
Four
talked about
coming up.
on the last stream, man. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. With all this stuff coming out now.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to keep up with. You should well, we got to figure this out. But we were talking about picking a show to watch an episode of at a time.
Yes,
and doing like
yeah.
commentary episodes. So, we should do that. We should pick one out. But you check out Foundation if you haven't already.
I'm caught up, so I'm
you
ready.
caught
For,
up? Okay,
I'm ready.
okay.
I'm ready for the new season, man. I've been waiting for it. I'm trying to get my dad to watch it because he read the books like
Yeah,
decades
that's right. You
ago.
mentioned that last. You mentioned
he
that
read the
last-
books
yeah.
decades ago. So I really want him to watch it. So I've been kind of pushing him
Yeah.
on that, but he's been busy with summertime. You see, he just retired like late last year, so he's like
Yeah.
living that up right now. So,
Yeah,
but I'll try and get him in sooner than later
I
if I
don't
can,
blame
because
him.
I want to get his thoughts.
yeah. That's a good time to chill out when you're retired.
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
All right, we'll catch you guys later.
Yeah, peace, y'all.
Later.